So we start chatting for a bit, and Molina's like, Tim just gave me an ultimatum. And I'm like, yeah,
Tim,
obviously, because you got your passport back. Obviously, he said he's been cool with everything
ultimatum.
until now, but it's because you didn't have your passport. So he can obviously say these cool things, but as long as you're like locked in Sweden, it doesn't really matter what he says. He knows you're not going anywhere, right?
Women are victims to their emotions, and her emotion is leaning towards this Tim guy. What does this Tim guy look like? This. This is her king. This is the man. At least I think it's a man. This is why you can't give women too much freedom. Don't give them any freedom.
As she's in Sweden, I think I'm streaming. She's doing her thing over there. Everything moves sideways for a couple months. As I'm here in the United States, Molina ends up meeting a new group of friends in Sweden that seem like pretty cool. She hangs out with them. Everything is cool. Sometimes Molina does this annoying thing where she's like, oh, I met these group of people. They're so cool. Like, it's cool because, they're all gay and platonic and they're dating other people. So there's no like relationship drama or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. That never lasts, but,
No
whatever,
drama.
you enjoy it.
Okay.
I think this was about 4 months ago. I think it was in early August. One of the friends that she'd made among some of the other friends was the Tim dude. And she and Tim, I guess, started hanging out as like friends. And I'm like, okay, it's funny. Now remember, just because I'm not posting logs of things doesn't mean I don't have proof of it. If you hear this and you think I'm lying, we can get to that if you want. But I remember me and Molina get into it's like a small argument where she's like, oh no, like I think everything's platonic and cool. I'm like, that this is obviously not going to be the case. And she's like, oh, I guess you know my friends better than I do. And I was like, no, I guess so. And I guess so. And eventually, surprise, surprise, Tim ends up cheating on the girl that he's with, Mel. And then a couple days later, they're like officially dating. And she's like, oh my God, you'll never believe this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I can't believe it. Who would have saw that coming? So initially, like, I'm kind of like, well, okay, it seems kind of weird that when we've talked, you talk about how like cheating is like the most like horrible thing and blah, blah, blah. But like this guy did this to his girlfriend and now you guys hang out, whatever, hey, knock yourself out, have fun. I'd say like in the first month of their kind of like hanging out, she tells me like a couple weird things and we kind of like joke because Molina and Tim are kind of like me and Molina in that the Tim guy is like ultra clingy and Molina is more kind of the one who like wants a little bit more space. And I even joke about this with her in DMs. It's like, oh, look, you found your Molina basically. So like, for example, Molina might be out at a party or she might be hanging out with friends and they're all kind of like drinking and having fun. And at one point, Tim wants to go home and Molina's like, well, I think I'd rather stay and like hang out with people. And then Tim starts like spamming her DMs like, no, you need to come home. This isn't fair. You're making me feel horrible. I need you to come home. Blah, 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 right? He's like
Oh my
that can't happen.
gosh.
She gets angry. Which I think is like funny, like reading it from her. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, yeah. So Molina comes upstairs. She's super stressed. And eventually she sits down on the couch. And I'm like, how's it going? And I can tell that she's super frazzled. Like I said, I already know like what's happening. And she says, I have a difficult decision to make. So we start chatting for a bit. And Melina's like, Tim just gave me an ultimatum. And I'm like,
Tim.
yeah, obviously, because you got your passport back. Obviously, he said he's been cool with everything
Ultimatum.
until now, but it's because you didn't have your passport. So he can obviously say these cool things, but as long as you're like locked in Sweden, it doesn't really matter what he says. He knows you're not going anywhere, right? So Melina tells me, I was outside. We were walking back to the apartment after I got my passport back. This was in Sweden, y'all. We were walking back to my apartment after I got my passport back, and Tim gave me an ultimatum right outside my apartment on the street. I'm like, what did he say? And she's like, Tim said that Steven is just way too toxic for you, and he can't stand to see me in so much pain. So I either have to divorce you, or I have to leave him. And I'm like, wow, well, what'd you tell him? And she's like, well, I don't know. I was super stunned because he said he's never done this before. And then Tim claimed that a few of
Oh
Melina's
my
friends had said that he
God.
talked to. A few of her friends had said, yeah, they definitely need to break up. They're way too toxic. It's a horrible relationship. And Molina said, well, my friends have never told me that before.
How is this happening? How are you gonna let this goober of a man that you met for a couple months, that you're suddenly in love with, call the shots? How does this goober of a man you've only known for a couple of months have the same amount of pull as your husband of 5 years? Can somebody help me out? I'm a little slow sometimes. Can somebody help me out? I don't think that the math is mathing right there. An ultimatum? This Tim guy? No, he voiced his concerns. He was worried. He was jealous. He was jealous to see you go, and that was that. But it doesn't matter. You mean to tell me you haven't had any clingy guys in the past say whatever they can say to get you to leave him? Is this the first time? He says it's not the first time. Destined. No, he says this stuff was gonna happen, and boom, it happened. And now you're sitting here trying to talk your way out of this marriage with your husband. Not only that, but you're talking with a tone of rationality, like, my friends, they don't really think this is a good idea. Of course, they would have no idea about our situation if I wasn't talking all this mess about you behind your back. That's the first thing. The second thing is, um, I mean, we've just spent so much time with each other, and he was there to support me emotionally, and you were out in America doing everything else except the emotional part. I'm sorry, doing everything except the physical part. I'm gonna let my emotions be tied in with the physicality, and I need a man. I need a man there for me. So that's strike two. Okay, I don't care about any of the support that you've done for me. No, no, absolutely not. It's about my whims in that moment. Oh, I hope it doesn't work out with her and this Tim guy. I really don't, because this is so stupid. The foundation of that relationship is incredibly doomed to fail, because that Tim guy is toxic as heck. But the nerve of a woman to try to reason her way out of a relationship based on the myths and tales that she put in motion months earlier. This is why you can't give women too much freedom. Don't give them any freedom.
So Tim says to her, he says, this is why everybody you've ever loved has left you, Molina. And he turns around and he storms down the street, okay? Very dramatically, or so it's told to me.
This guy's a
Molina's
master
freaking out.
manipulator.
She comes upstairs, and she's like, yeah, obviously super frazzled. So I'm sitting here kind of chilling, and I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of awkward. Whatever. We have, I think, probably about like a 30-minute conversation.
You should be
at
pissed.
this point, like, I'm not like delusional about the state of our relationship. We have had fights. I know what's going on. But I basically say to Molina, I'm like, okay, well, listen, here's where you're at. Obviously, we've been together for 5 years. We have all this history, blah, blah, blah. But we also fight over stuff. Like, there are issues we fight about. Personally, given the length of our relationship and the things we fight about, I feel like our relationship's not actually that bad. Like, especially when we're both happy and good, like, everything's super fun, everything's fine. We do have like a couple issues that seems like it's really hard for us to move over, but there's not like physical violence. We're not like doing crazy.
You have no idea
Molina's kind of
what
doing
she's
things, I guess,
thinking.
in retrospect. But it's not like
You have no idea what she's thinking. You're trying to tell her, do you know how much good we have together? Meanwhile, her mindset, she's already out the door, my friend. Her mind's pretty made up. Why do you have to? Why does a husband need a reason with his wife? Why does a husband need to persuade her wife, who's happy, who's living a happy life, that it is good to stay together? He's wasting his breath. What? It has nothing to do with all the facts. Women don't care about the facts. Women don't care about you listing all the good things that are going on. Women are victims to their emotions. And her emotion is leaning towards this Tim guy. What does this Tim guy look like? This is her king. This is the man, at least I think it's a man. How does this guy barely has pectoral muscles, an A cup, who has all this control over her? He has her heart. The man who lacks all traces of muscle and masculinity. This guy, he lost to well, it seems like she has a type, because he's kind of, but you get me. You get how ridiculous this whole situation is. Destiny lost to him. Oh my god.
But she comes back to the US, she lands. My goal is we're just gonna be chill. We're gonna have like 2 decent days together where we just like hang out, see how we feel about each other, and then we'll go to therapy and we'll figure stuff out, I remember that she lands at the airport,
so he
she comes
thought.
out, and she's wearing this disgusting, gaudy, massive hoodie that says mean ticks on it. And I'm like, my mind is like so unbelievably like right now. Because in my mind, Molina is one of the most sensitive in the world. If we're driving around and
Just so you know, meme ticks is the TikTok username of the Tim guy. Yes, the guy, the flimsy guy with her emotions, who has her heart on a string, who is giving Destiny all these problems. That guy, she's wearing the merch, the sweater of that guy who's causing all these problems. When Destiny comes to pick her up, the balls.
And there's like a new song on my playlist. Molina's asking like, which girl gave you this song? Like literally, like that's where she's at. And so she shows him this hoodie. I'm like, this is. She talks to me and she's like, well, here's like these are the things that I want from you in a relationship.
I bet.
And
I bet she's gonna list things that he already does.
when she starts talking to me about these things, they just sound like the dumbest things in the world. Like I don't understand what's going on. So like for instance, like one of the things she'll say is like, I need somebody who doesn't judge me for not working as much. And I'm like, I've never judged you for that, except for like the only time I've said this the last 2 months, I got worried because it seems like she was like quitting a lot of her stuff and just spending all of her time, you know, staying up till 5 a.m., like being lazy and having her life be destroyed. Like it's only been the last 2 months, but like it's a ton of stuff that I've complained about for the last 2 months that she's pretending is happening like the entire relationship. And then she hits one thing where she's like, I need somebody who is willing to give me like a lot of freedom and stuff. And I'm like, what? Tim gets motion sickness so bad he can't even get in Ubers. He can't even in cars.
You're in
like,
an open marriage. What more freedom do you need?
He doesn't fly in airplanes or get in cars because he's motion sick. And he's definitely not open or polyamorous. So what the is even happening? Why would you tell me? Why would you tell me that you need more freedom? Like I've literally let you have a second husband. Like what the? I don't understand that. And she's like, well, I don't know. And then I bring up like you can't even hang out with that one girl without, you know.
I don't like how he said that. Like I practically let you have a second husband. I don't know if he's making a joke or that was his mindset at the time, and for him to not see that as a red flag, for him to allow your wife to see someone as another husband, and you can brush it off because you know at the end of the day she's coming back to you, is stupid. Stupid. And I bet she thinks she did nothing wrong. She seems like the type to just always point the finger, and I've watched her on other podcasts. She's just kind of insufferable. Like she's a mean person. Fellas, first things first, don't date mean women. Okay, that's the first thing. You date a woman who's just optimistic and full of life. Her eyes have a spark, and I don't mean they have a spark just because they're around you. They have a spark because they are just they're doing well and they know it. They just want more. They just want more, and they know that you can help them. That's the first thing. Second thing is, your woman should not be too overly emotional when it comes to other guys. She shouldn't be always complaining about some coworker, some dude, or some foolishness happening in her friend group. Okay, that should not be an issue. She should. Another man's name should almost never come out her mouth if it's not family. You think I'm playing, but no. And he helped her. He fed into it. He fed into her emotions, and that's why I think one of the dumbest things you can do is be in a polyamorous relationship. Because, forgive me if I'm mistaken, but it's all about relationships. It's not just hitting it and quitting it. It's not like that at all. It's you don't let one relationship stop you from finding another relationship. That's the whole point, right? But these two are married now, so you would think that he has dominion over her. You would assume that her husband would have dominion over her, over all these other goobers, right? But she's so willing to just let 5 years be gone. It meant nothing. It meant nothing if you could find some clingy goober fembot to emotionally dump on. Destiny, my friend, you were just not toxic enough for her. You're too rational. It's too good of a life. She probably feels imposter syndrome. It's too good a life. She needs chaos. Fellas, avoid women who seek chaos. I know she be throwing down in the bedroom. I get it. I get she's an 8, she's a 9. I get it. But you should not invite chaos into your life, especially if they wake up next to you every day.